Welcome back to another episode of the In Raw Life podcast. We are still doing self-care because there's so many different ways that you can self-care. It's not just getting your nails did. It's not just taking bubble baths. It's not just massages. Although we did cover that last week if you want to go there. But there are at least 8 different kinds of self-care, possibly even more. And we're covering all 8. We are on number 7 today. But before we get there, Jessica, tell them how they can get even more connected.
Here's what you can win. You can rate, review, and subscribe, first of all, to the podcast wherever you're listening, especially Apple and Spotify, because that just tells the podcast platforms that they should put us out to more people so that more people can get something out of it. Or on YouTube, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can do that too. And that just gives us love back, which makes us give more love to you. You can also find our Facebook group, which we are currently going unedited live earlier than we post the podcast, just exclusively for them. But if you find yourself wanting to be or are an empowered, unstoppable woman, and you are really interested in the whole work-life balance thing, that's what our group is about. We are work-life balance for empowered, unstoppable women on Facebook. It's just an empowering community where it's full of women who just want to be their best and see others be their best and encourage everyone to do so. So join us there.
Yes. Did you say the link is in the bio? I wasn't listening for it.
Nope, but you did.
The link is in the bio, in the show notes. That's not a bio. That's the show notes because it's a podcast. Oh, we're getting all our platforms confused today. And by we, I just mean my brain and all my personalities. All right. So let's get into the show. Today, we are covering social self-care. And I am so stoked that we waited till today because I kept thinking I feel like I need a little bit more socialization before we can cover social self-care so we can really talk about it. Because I think when we started this series, I was just starting to really get out more. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of social anxiety post-COVID. I will definitely admit that. It was not easy for me to be in crowds. I did not like people, which I'm usually very extroverted. I freaking love people. But the initial goes into crowds again, I was like, ugh, people, man. There's so many of them. I don't know what to do with them. And when I went out, I would get really tired because I wasn't used to being around people as much and or being outdoors. And I don't know, I wasn't used to going places. I'm used to staying at home. So I'd get tired easily, but now I'm getting into the rhythm. I just got back from DC. I have a friend now. I have multiple friends that live in my area. This is a crazy thing. So I'm excited to talk about that. But anyway, those are my initial thoughts on social self-care. What are yours, Jess?
Well, it's funny because I just thought about this. You and I are similar when it comes to what socialization does for us. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if we can even touch, I want to just make sure that we do touch a little bit on the fact that we are similar and there are people different than us out there. So if you don't connect with what we're saying, hopefully we can touch on a few things of how you can do social self-care. We're both extroverts. So maybe how you can do social self-care when you're an introvert. And how you can still fuel yourself that way somehow.
I definitely think we can.
Yeah.
Because go ahead.
I usually read whatever the originating post says.
Oh, right.
And then we can go off of that. So they say that social self-care is the actions we take to nurture and develop the relationships with family and friends in our lives. Examples, which are super not specific, connecting with family and friends. Oh, that's all I have to do.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So I really actually like that description because it's the actions we take to connect. And I don't think it matters if you're extroverted or introverted. Mm-hmm. The idea is that you need connections in your life. It's just a matter of how much connection. So for you and I, Jess, we love connecting with people as often as possible, but for introverts,
preferably in person usually.
Yes. But for an introvert, they don't want too much social interaction, but I still think it's so imperative that you have social interaction no matter how introverted you are. And so for example, last night I went over to one of my friend's house. I went over to my friend's house and she is very introverted and her job includes visiting multiple people all day. Like she's a mattress sales rep. So she goes and she sees all sorts of people all day long. And when she gets home, she's tired, she's done. She doesn't want to people anymore. But she also recognizes that like seeing all those people that are not friends with her is not the same as seeing me who like is a friend. And I honestly, I just had it. We weren't even planning on seeing each other, but I needed, my computer wasn't working with this one thing. So I needed to borrow hers. I went over there for just like a couple of hours. And when I drove home last night, I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't driven home from a friend's house in like 16 months.
Oh no, we lost you. Both
Bryson
places.
is calling me. Not today, Bryson. Not today. I should put this on Do Not Disturb. Oh man. Well, it's on work. Okay. Do Not Disturb. Sorry. Anyway, so, but I, okay. Refocus. Yeah, I realized I hadn't driven home from a friend's house in like 16 months because since I've lived here, I haven't had any friends live here. Mm-hmm. And it was so funny to me because it's something I took for granted for so long, driving home from a friend's house. Like I never thought anything of it, but because I have been without it for 16 months, my friend that I'm talking about, she just recently moved here. So because I'd been without that action of driving home from a friend's house, it was like the most comforting feeling because it feels different than driving home from other places. Like you feel refreshed, but also a little exhausted because you probably stayed longer than you should. But your soul feels like nourished and you just have a greater appreciation of life when it's like a friend that you can be real and just you with. And that was such an amazing feeling that I have been lacking. And I was so like, I was so happy that I had that experience again. And I was also grateful for the drought, so to speak, because it helps remind me of like what I have. So that was great.
Yeah. I mean, I get the same feeling when I leave, social situations in general, because I just really love interacting with people, which is funny because I always I describe myself as a shy kid when I was younger, but I still, I used to say I was a shy kid who was still a leader because I had my friends and I liked to be in groups of friends, but I was shy around everything else or was observant. So I kept quiet or whatever. But just this past weekend, I had 2 days in a row where I spent around people that I'm close with and can talk with. And then my 2 best friends came to town too. And that was awesome. And then but I also get that little bit of especially when people visit, I get that little anxiety the whole time, especially if it's a shorter trip of, oh, they're leaving soon though. And I try to just stay in the moment. So maybe that's a good tip for social self-care. Enjoy the moments that you're in that feel really good so that you can take them with you instead of because I know you get kind of when people visit you, you get that anxiety too of.
Yeah. When they leave, I feel really lonely.
Yeah. So I think we can be really intentional and that can be a form of self-care here. When we're with them, just be so with them and enjoy it and grateful for the fact that they're there so that when they do leave, it's I am fueled because they were here versus I'm depleted because they're gone.
Yeah, that's true. And I think introverts can feel depleted and if they're with somebody too much, I think again, we're not introverts, so we can't speak to it, but I would also encourage to allow that rest time, because when you're, especially now, one of my friends just got back from a work conference and she's like, I'm so tired. I'm like, yeah, you're introverted and you haven't been around people forever. And now you're at a work conference with all these people and you're at least 3 years older than the last time you were at a work conference. So just rest, let yourself sleep. It's okay to be tired when when you're around people. So I think I think there's also recovery, but yeah, I think appreciating the moment will help the recovery not be so severe, but also let yourself recover and get back to whoever you are. For me, I have to let myself recover and get back to the norm of not having people around, which is kind of hard and sad for me. And for an introvert, it might just have to be oh yes, I'm back. Remind yourself okay, I'm here now. I need to sleep a little extra today. Maybe I need that nap, and allow space for that. Cause you're human, you're not unstoppable. We all need our rest.
And then, so I moved to this area 2 years ago while working from home the whole time. So like I'm in a similar situation where I don't have just like ready-made friends. And it's been pretty much the whole time. So that's taken a huge toll on me and effect on me. So I'm really even more intentional about reaching out to friends that don't live here, just to like text and say, hey, miss you, love you. And that can give like a little bit of that, social self-care. And then now I'm really purposely stepping out and like looking for ways to connect with local people. So, Facebook groups is a really great place to find local people or around our age bracket. Like I found, in one of the local mom groups, it's like a really good group. Like people are always posting, oh, looking for friends. It's so hard to make friends. And then nobody ever really follows through. Or if they do, it doesn't go past like one meetup. But somebody finally, she'd posted that and then she took it upon herself and took action. I was like, yes, I could love this girl because she takes action. And she like put together a meetup at a park last weekend. So I was like, it'd be nice to sleep in or like not get out of the house, but like to be there by 9:30. But I was like, no, this is a form of social self-care. This is what I've been wanting. It's what I've been needing. Just go. And my daughter needs it too, because she's also an extrovert. So we got ready and we went and we actually got to talk to people. And it was so good that we all talked about, oh, we need to like keep this going. So we're going to continue, like we have like a Facebook message group going and like we're going to do it again in another park and hopefully it like continues. And on top of that, like I also found things that were interests of me. Like I joined a book club, moms who read in this area, book club that I plan to finally find a babysitter so that I can go to this book club and like meet some other people that have common interests that live in my area. So like you have to start really investing time and money and sometimes getting out of your comfort zone to just go do the thing that is going to fuel you. Like think about the end result, just like with anything that you do, is go do the thing. It may not work out. It might be like, oh, these people are not my people. Okay, cool. Now I know. Like, let me find my people.
Yeah, I feel like stepping out of your comfort zone is one of the hardest, like the things that hold us back from some of the most amazing opportunities in life in general. But when it comes to friends, like absolutely, we think to ourselves like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't talk to that person. They'll think I'm crazy. But the funny thing is that person's probably sitting there thinking like, man, I just want friends too. Like we're all in that space of wanting connection. Like we, as humans, we long for connection.
Yeah.
And
we're
so,
social beings, no matter what anybody says about themselves.
Yes, you need people. You need people in your life. Otherwise you hermit away and decompose. Like if you need people, maybe not all the time.
You even need people just to like keep your mind going. I remember when Emlyn was a baby and we were living in California. And we didn't have many people around and I was fine with it. I was like, oh, we're doing our thing. Like I'm figuring out how to be a mom. We would go to a few things, but I realized that I lost vocabulary in those first few months of her being a baby because it was just me and this newborn baby. And wow, I would like talk to family or friends on the phone, or I'd finally get in person with some other adults. And I had like a 4th grade level vocabulary. It felt like I couldn't think of big words. And it was so weird. Like we need to be around other people to be ourselves sometimes. Or be our whole selves.
I feel like we need it too, just in order to get through the irrational thoughts, because like our brain can start to tell us some crazy things, especially if you are alone in your thoughts for long enough. So then you start to like question your worth, question your value, start to, say like speak negative things over yourself versus positive. And you can even start imagining situations, like if you're not talking to people and communicating with people, you start to think like, oh, maybe it's because they don't like me. Maybe it's because I'm a terrible friend. Maybe I'm such a bad friend that no one will ever love me. Like you go in these cycles of thought that are so unnecessary and so untrue if you give yourself time alone enough, which is also like, I think a good thing. Like if you are in a situation where you are lonely and you don't have too many people to talk to, first make your social connections and get connected with your friends and family that you do know. But also we talked about like a mental self-care And Jessica, you brought up listening to podcasts, and it was funny because it was at a point where I was like super lonely because I had a quarantine for COVID, and like just keeping your mind active, listening to podcasts or like books on tape. That like I'm like, you know what, Jessica's totally right. Like that's gonna help me. And I started listening to, I don't even remember what, because I've listened to so much now since. But like just having somebody else talking and giving you thoughts. So you're like, and hopefully you're listening to positive ones, not negative ones that are, I don't know, really discouraging you or encouraging you to do things that are not, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. I lost my vocabulary. Not enriching to your soul, we'll say. But you know, like just having thought things to like keep your mind stimulated. And I think that's what friendships do, when you find friends that you can connect with. And I also want to say though too, like finding friends that you can connect with who will lift you up, right? Like that's a big thing Jess and I talk about, at least on Facebook, we talk about it a lot, is how you are the sum of the 5 people you're closest to. So you want to keep people in your life that will lift you up, that will heighten your level. You don't want to keep people, like if you have a circle of people who are negative Nancy's, naysayers, just like every time you talk to them, it's like you're talking to Eeyore, the sky is gray and gloomy again. You know, maybe it's okay to let some of those slide and fade away and to get new ones. And I know it's, again, like it's scary to look for new friends, but it's so rewarding. Like, okay, so earlier I was saying how like all these other people are sitting there wanting friends too, for the most part. If they're your people, they're probably looking for a friend too. And so for whatever reason, there's been a couple of times where I'm like, I should just go talk to this person because I don't have friends in my area yet. And I like, well, now I'm gaining them, but but there's a few times I've just wanted to go up and be like, hi, like, what's your story? Just to make a friend. Right. But I haven't done it for whatever reason. I like the stuff I used to do in my youth all the time. Sorry, big FedEx truck was loud. It's something I used to do in my youth all the time. And now for whatever reason, I've kind of stopped without even realizing it. Well, yesterday at the coffee shop, this girl walks up to me and she's like, listen, I'm sorry, I was eavesdropping and I can tell you're in marketing. I'm in marketing too. Can we chat? And so I'm back here today and we've like, it turns out that we have people, like we have people at the same conference in Orlando, and yet we're in a coffee shop in New Jersey.
That's like, so funny.
How is that? Like, it's crazy. And if I had heard her too. She knew I was in marketing. I heard that she was in marketing. I could hear her conversations too. Like, we definitely have a similar job. And I didn't say anything. And if she also hadn't said anything, I would still be sitting here, one less friend. But now I have a new friend. Her name's Chelsea. She's right inside there. Nice. I'll go talk to her again after the podcast. But like, thank goodness she was bold enough to walk up to me and start up a crazy conversation of, hey, I think you're into marketing. And like, now we've connected and we realize we have so much in common. So like, that was such a bold step on her part. And like, a beautiful friendship could be blossoming out of it, which is great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I can hear the energy, like you as the extrovert, like I can hear the energy in your voice just from that. And I know how that feels because I would be the same way.
Yeah, it's exciting. And that's the thing too, like you think you might sound crazy, but you don't know how much you could brighten someone's day by simply saying like, oh my gosh, I see you're reading my favorite book. That's my favorite book. And then you spend an hour geeking out on Jane Austen or whatever.
Yeah. And if you do like get bold enough to say, comment on whatever, and the person doesn't react, not your person. It's okay.
Yeah. Yep. It's so good. It's so good to like, yeah, I think like that's true. You've got to move on when like, it may not work every time. And if it doesn't, you've got to be like, that's okay. Because I'm still amazing and they missed out. Yeah. And
or it's not even that they missed out. It's just like, maybe you guys, like I hear it on one of my other favorite podcasts. That's all about like relationships and dating, just not the match. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like you can both be amazing people and just not be a match for each other friendship wise.
I feel like, so for me recently, I've been, I really don't like judgment. I mean, I know we all do it and it's natural in all of us, but like the people who are super judgy, they just make me so upset. I'm like, why are we wasting our time judging people? And then I recently realized like that's where that came from, is like the, whatever, like, what did I say? Your loss or whatever I said. like the people that are, if you go up to that person and it like, so I think there's two levels. One, it's not a connection. It's not a connection. Two, if they judge you, like that's their loss.
That's on
because
them,
you
yeah.
are an amazing person. And people who are judging, I've come to this conclusion recently. People who are judging are usually so buried in their own insecurities that judging helps them feel better about their current situation. So a lot of times, some of the most judgmental people seem intimidating. They seem confident. They seem like they've got it all together. But really, that all together is like a humongous front. And you are showing up as you, beautiful, amazing, incredible you.
Yeah.
And don't ever be ashamed of that, because that is awesome. So
yeah,
that's my note there.
On that, like when I realized, like I wasn't over judgmental, but I was definitely, you know, the human instinct being judgmental. And when I realized that I really didn't like those thoughts that came to mind, and I consciously stopped them, this was, I think, around when Emlyn was a baby. That was around when I started changing as a person and being more myself. So that's a really interesting thought.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing too. I think a lot of times we're afraid to be who we are, because like if people saw who we really are, they could judge us, they could whatever. But ultimately, like who you are is incredible. There's like, we're all so different. There's only one you. And like whatever you're telling yourself of like, you're not good enough. Yeah, but you are blah, blah, blah. Like, no, you're incredible. I mean, you're here. So obviously, like, we already love you because you're our people. If you're enjoying this podcast, you're our people, and we love our people.
Yeah.
And so like there's good in you, and we're grateful for that good. And just the world needs more of that good. So shine it. Let everyone see it, because it's totally needed.
Yeah. And if you're in our Facebook group, like go ahead and shine your light in the group, like introduce yourself more, talk about who you are and why you love being you. And that'll encourage some others to step up and be themselves too, and make friends. Cause like online friends are also friends. And that's also socialization when you're like genuinely connecting with people. That's the cool thing. You know, social media gets such a bad rap, but I've always said I love the social part of social media, because I get to keep up with old friends that might be across the globe. I get to meet new friends online and, you know, learn about them and become, it's just, the social part is so cool. And I think that we can promote that even more.
Yeah, it's true. If it's genuine, like, which I've made genuine friendships. Like I have friends that I've never met in person, which is a weird thing. Like that's the way it is these days. I mean, even our coworkers, we've never met our coworkers, and yet they're our friends. So you really, like, in person feels better for me, sure, but there's still connections, genuine connections that can be made with people across the world. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Oh, I like that one a lot. Well, thank you for joining us. Wait, do you feel wrapped up? I didn't ask.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for joining us on another episode. We love you. Seriously, like you are our friend simply by being here. You are our person, and we're so grateful for you. We're grateful for your existence, and we're grateful that you're in our world. So please keep coming back. We are here every Thursday morning at midnight Eastern. And then please too, like if you love what you're hearing, share it. Like we want more friends. I am not going to hold back anymore asking for friends. If you know someone who would love what we're putting out there, please share it. Send it, via text, via Insta, post it to your story, whatever the case may be. Share about us and let other people know that we are here so we can grow and shine. It got super loud, so I just wrapped it up super quick.
I figured. I heard it too. Until next week, I hope that you, whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, reach out to somebody, whether it's through text and that's all you can do right now, or in a Facebook group. Like put yourself out there in some sort of way to make a social self-care connection for the day, the week, whatever works for you, and do it. Just like I said on my birthday episode, like do it scared and find out what happens, because good things happen on the other side of scared. And bye, Facebook group. We love you.
See you later. See ya. Okay. Wait, can you still hear me though on Facebook?
Yes, I'm going to end Zoom.